All right, so you're prepping for a paper embossing press operator interview. You really want to knock it out of the park.
Absolutely.
And we're not just talking about answering those typical questions. We're going to dig deep and understand what those questions really mean, what's behind them, and how you can use your answers to really showcase what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
So to help us with this deep dive, we've got a couple of really useful resources. We've got interview guides, career overviews, and even some AI insights from RoleCatcher. And we're going to pull out all the best stuff, the gems, to help you nail this interview.
Definitely.
So why don't we kick things off by sort of setting the stage here? What exactly does a paper embossing press operator actually do?
Well, it's really fascinating, actually. It's a blend of technical expertise and creative problem solving.
Right.
You've got the artistry involved in creating those raised designs, the precision required. I mean, it's so much more than just pushing buttons on a machine.
Yeah, it's like you're taking a flat image and giving it another dimension. Almost like sculpting with paper. I mean, when you think about the detail on a luxury product package or the texture you feel on a fancy book cover, that's the kind of craftsmanship we're talking about here.
Right.
And I bet that's what those interviewers are going to be looking for. They want to see that passion for the craft, the attention to detail, and how you can handle all those, challenges that pop up.
Yeah, they're looking for how you approach the work, not just your knowledge.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's dive into some common interview questions. And we're going to try to understand, what are those interviewers actually trying to figure out about you?
Okay, sounds good.
So how about this one? Can you describe your experience using paper embossing presses?
Right.
Now, this one seems pretty straightforward, right? But is there something more to it?
Yeah. There's definitely a hidden meaning.
What are they getting at?
They don't just want to hear a list of the machines you've used. They want to gauge your familiarity with the whole embossing process.
So it's not about oh, I've used this press and that.
No, not at all. It's about the terminology, the nuances.
Okay, so think about it like this. We've got different types of presses out there. Manual ones, automatic, maybe even some specialized presses for different materials.
Right. And can you explain how to set up a job? Can you adjust the pressure and temperature? How do you ensure quality control?
So I should paint a picture of my understanding of the entire process.
Exactly.
And this is where maybe we can weave in some insights from RoleCatcher's AI.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because if the job description mentions specific types of presses or techniques, I should make sure to highlight those in my answer, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not just reciting generic information. It's showing that I've taken the time to really understand what this role needs.
Right, and that kind of attention to detail, that's what's going to make you stand out.
It shows I did my research.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to another common question I see popping up. What steps do you take to ensure the embossing press is properly set up for a job?
Okay.
So this one seems to be all about being meticulous. They want to see if you just turn the machine on and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Or if you have a system and you understand why that's important for calibration and quality control.
Right. They want to see if you cut corners or if you're thorough.
So I should walk them through my process.
Definitely.
Step by step.
Yeah, starting with reviewing those design specifications, selecting the right dyes and materials, calibrating the press, checking those pressure and temperature settings, and of course, running those test sheets.
So it's the little things, like mentioning a specific time when you caught a problem during a test run, because you were, being really careful about the alignment.
Yes, those real-world examples show you really get it. You're not just reciting steps from a manual.
You understand why each one matters.
Exactly.
All right, let's dive into another one. How do you troubleshoot issues that arise while operating the embossing press?
All right, troubleshooting.
This one feels like it goes a bit deeper. And just like knowing the technical stuff.
Yeah, because now they're trying to figure out your problem-solving skills. Are you calm under pressure? Can you keep things running smoothly, even when things go wrong?
It's about those times when, you had a sudden jam.
Yeah.
Or the embossing depth wasn't consistent, and you had to scramble to figure out what was going on.
Right, exactly.
So do they want to hear about my general troubleshooting process?
You can definitely talk about that, but try to go a little bit deeper. Instead of just saying, I checked the pressure and the temperature, share an example of a specific problem you faced, and then how you diagnosed it and then solved it.
So like a story.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it was a faulty heating element.
Yeah.
Or a worn-out die. Or maybe even an issue with that paper feed mechanism.
Right, and that brings your experience to life.
It shows I can handle those curveballs.
Yeah, because they always come up.
And this is where I'm thinking Maybe RoleCatcher's AI can give us a little edge.
Oh, for sure.
Because it can analyze that job description and pull out keywords.
Exactly.
Like problem solving, critical thinking, process improvement.
Right.
So then I can use those keywords as like cues to emphasize those parts of my experience in my answers.
Precisely. It's all about tailoring your responses to the specific needs of that role.
I like it. All right, now to the next question. Have you ever worked with custom dies or plates?
Okay, custom work.
So this one's about those specialized projects.
Yeah, it's a chance to show off a bit.
To show that I can go beyond those standard designs.
Yeah. Have you had to adapt to unique specifications? Did you work with designers or clients to make their vision a reality?
Okay, so if I've got experience with custom dies, I should highlight that.
For sure.
But what if I haven't had that opportunity yet? Should I just say no?
I mean, honesty is always the best policy. You don't have to make up experience.
But I don't want to just say no and end it there.
Right. So instead of that, you can say, while I haven't worked with custom dies yet, I'm really fascinated by all the possibilities, and I'm a quick learner. I'm confident I can master those techniques.
Turn that weakness into a strength. Show my enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Willingness to learn.
Exactly.
And I could even mention any personal projects or experiments I've done.
Well, that's a good idea.
To show that I'm really passionate about pushing those boundaries.
Yeah, it shows you're not just looking for a job. You really love what you do.
I'm invested in the craft.
Right. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and look at this question. How do you maintain the embossing press to ensure it is functioning properly?
Okay.
Now, this isn't just about, knowing how to work the machine. They're looking for an understanding of preventative maintenance, your commitment to safety, and how you treat, valuable equipment.
It's about being responsible.
Exactly.
Proactive.
Right.
Not just waiting for stuff to break down.
So you want to highlight that you follow a strict maintenance schedule.
Okay.
Like daily cleaning, weekly lubrication, monthly inspections, the whole 9 yards.
And keeping a log of these activities.
Yeah.
And reporting any issues to the supervisor.
Yes. All of that shows you take ownership.
What if I haven't been in a role where I was like the one responsible for all the maintenance?
That's okay. Even just assisting with maintenance or observing those proper procedures, that's all valuable.
Okay.
So describe what you've learned and how you would apply that knowledge to make sure that press is running smoothly.
Makes sense.
And here's a little tip. RoleCatcher's Career Guide mentions that there are all these new digital embossing presses hitting the market.
Oh, interesting.
Now, you might not have any hands-on experience with those yet.
Right.
But just being aware of these advancements, it shows that you're keeping up with the industry.
Even if the company I'm interviewing with isn't using the latest and greatest technology,
right,
they'll appreciate that I'm aware of, what's out there.
Yeah, it shows you're committed to staying ahead of the curve.
I like it.
All right, now let's tackle a question where you can really showcase those problem-solving skills. Can you describe a time when you had to troubleshoot a complex issue with the embossing press?
Okay, so we're looking for a specific example here. Not just the usual fixes.
Yeah, something that really challenged you.
Dig into the memory bank.
Yeah, exactly.
For a time when things got tricky.
But you figured it out.
But I figured it out.
And when you're telling this story, focus on the steps you took.
Okay.
Maybe you had to analyze the design, test different materials, or even collaborate with others to figure out what was going on.
And the key here is to show them how I think.
Exactly.
Show my analytical skills, my persistence.
And a little creativity doesn't hurt.
Like that time I was working on a project. And the embossing depth was all inconsistent.
Okay.
And it turned out the paper wasn't feeding evenly.
Uh-oh.
Causing all these variations in the pressure.
Wow.
So I had to adjust that feed mechanism.
And that fixed it.
It did. But it took some digging to get there.
That's a perfect example. You identified the problem. You didn't just react. You were proactive.
I found a solution.
Exactly.
Okay, next question. How do you ensure the embossing press is operating at maximum efficiency?
Okay.
So this sounds like it's about more than just, avoiding downtime.
Right, because they're trying to see, do you understand how to optimize things? How do you contribute to the overall productivity?
It's about going the extra mile.
Exactly.
Not just meeting the bare minimum.
Right.
So instead of just saying, I keep the machine running smoothly, I should talk about strategies.
Yes.
Or techniques I've used to actually boost that efficiency.
Give me an example.
Well, maybe I preheated the dies to reduce the setup time.
Okay.
Or I experimented with different paper weights.
To minimize waste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe I found a way to streamline the loading process.
Perfect.
Those little details.
Those are the things that make you stand out.
It all ties back to that proactive mindset.
Yeah, you're taking initiative
And here I'm thinking RoleCatcher's AI could be a real asset.
Oh, absolutely.
Because let's say the job description mentions something like optimize production workflows
Okay.
or implement process improvements.
Yeah.
The AI can pick up on those phrases
And it'll suggest specific examples from your experience.
that I can then use in my answers.
It's like having a personalized cheat sheet.
I love it.
It helps you focus on those skills that the hiring manager is looking for.
Okay, so let's move on to another question. Have you ever worked with large-scale or industrial embossing presses?
Okay, so now they're trying to figure out your comfort level with different types of equipment.
So if I've worked on those high-volume production runs, I should emphasize the scale.
Yeah, talk about the speed. Any specialized techniques you had to master?
What if my experience has been mostly with smaller presses?
That's fine, just be honest about it.
Okay.
But emphasize that you're adaptable and you're eager to learn.
So I could say something like, my primary experience has been with the smaller presses, but I'm really eager to take on that challenge of operating those larger industrial scale machines.
Perfect.
I'm a fast learner, and I'm confident I can adapt quickly.
Exactly. It's all about that growth mindset.
Show them I'm not afraid to step outside my comfort zone.
That's what impresses interviewers.
All right, on to the next one. Can you describe your experience with embossing different types of materials or substrates?
Right, some materials.
Seems pretty straightforward. Just list off all the materials I've worked with, right?
You could do that, but use this as a chance to showcase your knowledge.
My knowledge of what?
Think about how different materials behave under pressure.
Oh, that's a good point.
You've got paper, cardstock, leather, even metal.
Each one is different.
They all have their own quirks.
So I should mention the specific challenges
Yes.
and adjustments I needed to make for each one.
Exactly.
Like, did I have to adjust the temperature to avoid scorching leather?
Right.
Or use a different dye for a delicate material?
Those are the kinds of details that show you're an expert,
I'm thinking
not just pushing buttons.
understanding how those materials and techniques all work together.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, RoleCatcher's AI can lend a helping hand here.
Oh, for sure.
If that job description mentions specific materials,
Those are your cues.
highlight that experience.
Precisely.
All right, let's wrap up this section with a question about organization. How do you prioritize tasks when multiple jobs are running simultaneously?
Okay, so now we're talking about time management.
Staying organized.
Yeah, and understanding those production workflows.
They want to know if I can juggle multiple demands
Without sacrificing quality.
or missing deadlines.
Exactly.
So it's about being a master multitasker.
But also being strategic.
Strategic.
So walk them through your process.
Okay.
How do you assess those deadlines and the complexity of each job?
How do I make sure everything stays on track?
Right. Do you use any specific tools or techniques?
Like a task management system.
Okay, good.
Or maybe I create a schedule
To prioritize.
based on urgency and complexity.
Perfect. And don't forget to mention communication.
Oh, right.
Let them know how you keep your supervisor and colleagues informed.
Teamwork
Collaboration.
shows I'm not just focused on my own little tasks.
All right. You're thinking about the team's success.
It's all connected.
Exactly. And that's what they're really looking for. Someone who can handle the technical stuff, but also has those soft skills that make them a valuable asset to the company.
Okay, so we've talked about a bunch of those common questions, really dug into what they're looking for. But before we wrap up, I think it's important to step back. Look at the bigger picture of your career in this field.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point.
Because it's not just about nailing this one interview, right? It's about setting yourself up for success in the long run
Absolutely.
as a paper embossing press operator.
And that's where some of those insights from RoleCatcher's career guide can be super helpful.
Yeah, like what happens after the interview? How do I keep learning, keep growing in this field?
Right.
So the guide talks about building a portfolio.
Yeah, a portfolio that's more than just your basic samples.
So it's not just showing pretty designs.
No, it's about showcasing those problem-solving skills, how you handle tricky materials.
Maybe those times I found a way to streamline production without, sacrificing quality.
Exactly, to tell the story behind your work.
So like a project where I had to emboss a super delicate material.
Oh,
And I can explain like the techniques, the adjustments I used.
to get that perfect result.
It shows I'm not just following instructions. I'm
Right.
thinking critically, finding ways to make things better.
That's what sets you apart.
And the guide also talks about networking.
Oh, yeah, networking is so important.
Networking for a paper embossing press operator, it seems a little unexpected.
It might seem that way, but think about it. You go to industry events.
Okay.
You connect with designers, suppliers, maybe even other operators.
Oh, I see.
You learn about new trends, new techniques, new materials.
Well, I'm not just in my own little world.
Exactly.
I'm engaged in the whole field.
And that shows initiative.
It does.
And demonstrating that continuous learning, showing that passion for your craft, those are qualities that every employer is looking for.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We talked about those specific interview questions, explored some career strategies, and even touched on how RoleCatcher's AI can help us prepare.
Yeah, we packed a lot in.
So what's the main takeaway here for our listeners?
You're not just prepping for an interview. You're building a foundation for a really successful career. And let that shine through in your answers, in your portfolio, and in how you approach this field as a whole.
And one last thought. We've talked a lot about acing that interview. But think about this. What kind of company culture would best support you? As a paper embossing press operator.
Oh, that's a great point.
Think about the environment, the types of projects, the opportunities to learn and grow.
Yeah, the right fit goes both ways.
Keep that in mind. When you're evaluating those potential employers,
Good luck with your interview.
good luck with your interview.
Good luck.